the left and Boy stayed onside. Here's Mounier. 2-0 Huddersfield Town on the opening day of the Premier League. Depoitre's forward. Depoitre's got the better. Yes! And Laurent Depoitre scores! Laurent Depoitre scores!
It's in the box. It's in there! It's in there! It's there! It's on the run! And it's there! The King of Huddersfield!
Hello and welcome to the drive-in from Andy Takes That Chance, your perfect car companion for your drive down to Reading. The Sky cameras enjoyed this new fandangled Northern football so much that Huddersfield Town are on the box again this coming weekend for the trip down to the Waitrose capital of UK. Last time out at Reading, it was another TV game via the red button at 12:30. Lee Nichols was injured in the warm-up, so Jacob Chapman came in for only his third start for Huddersfield Town. Anthony Evans' free kick was saved by the Reading keeper David Button before Matty Pearson craned his neck like an owl to head in the rebound with some unnatural power. But that was as good as it got for Town, who were towards the end of the first bad run of that season, as Harvey Nibbs equalised shortly after Town's goal. And then in the second half against the run of play, Ben Elliott scored the winner. You'll remember Matty Pearson getting a disallowed goal as well because Nigel Lonvike was offside in the build-up. So, Town have only won twice at the Select Car Leasing Stadium in the last 10 attempts. The last one came in 2022. That's a bit of a tongue twister. Under Carlos Corberan, thanks to a Danny Ward-inspired performance in a 4-3 victory. So how have things been going since we last played Reading? I asked Matt from Elm Park Royals and asked him firstly, how much of a relief is it to finally have that takeover go through?
Huddersfield voice note, take 2, because I'm the moron that didn't remember to attach my microphone when doing the last one, which was 10 minutes well wasted. Matt from Elm Park Royals podcast here. Question 1. I think when you look at the relief, I think in Reading fans since the takeover, I think all we have to do is look at the last game of last season when we played Barnsley. We needed to win that game, but the takeover had pretty much all been announced just before the game kind of kicked off, and we had a full stadium. And I've never been at a game which should have been so tense and felt so relaxed. I think everyone thought, yes, we needed to win. We were level on points with Leyton Orient. We needed to win to get in the playoffs, but everyone kind of, I think, knew even if we did lose, we'd kind of won. No one really cared about the playoff. Of course, we all wanted to get in, but it was just such a party atmosphere. And, maybe the nerves were maybe eased by the fact that we went down 1-0 after 4 minutes. And I think Leyton Orient scored very early as well. I think they're playing Huddersfield. I think you gifted them pretty much 2 goals and couldn't have made it easier for them to win. But yeah, no one really kind of cared about that. Everyone was in a celebratory mood, and I've just never been at a game that's meant to be so tense that just wasn't. Everyone was happy, everyone was in celebration mode, and then this season got just up to 9,000, nearly 10,000 season tickets again, which we were down to I think about 7,000 or 6,000 in the die days. Fans are just happy and relieved that I think we've got a club again. We're not back to the high flying championship days or the Premier League days when it comes to season ticket holders, but I think to get back to that 9,000 mark, and I think 10,000 was the goal of the new owners, but I think that would have been back to pretty much I think like 2013-14 or so levels to get back to that many season tickets. So I think there's a buzz around the place. Everyone's happy that we can go to football again and enjoy ourselves. We've not got that burden on the personal life, on the work life as well, that is there going to be a football club? Because ownership struggles like that, it doesn't just affect you on a Saturday. It affects you in every part of your life. The worry it brings, the depression it brings. It's not something anyone really would wish on any fan base. So yeah, I think everyone is very, very relieved, I think you could say. Question 2. Yeah, I think last season we very much overachieved. I don't think anyone would have thought that, you know, we would have been in 7th place come the end of the season, let alone fighting for, you know, a playoff spot, level on points with the team in 6th on the last day of the season. So yeah, if you'd have said that at the start of the season, I would have snapped your hand off. That's before you kind of even go into, you know, what happened that season, losing a number of key players again, you know, to pay bills. You know, Sam Smith going in January, Femi Aziz last summer, big players, you know, that we lost, you know, Tyler Bindon as well, even though we got him loaned back for the second half of the season. You know, I think it was a real overachievement last year. And I think really this year, you know, some fans will be looking and think, oh, you've got to go one better, you've got to go in the playoffs. But it's like, you know, this is a new start really this year. There's a lot of things that need fixing, not just on the pitch. You know, I think it was 6 players in contract, first team players at the start of the season. So, you know, we needed to rebuild that. The core of the squad, we really needed to rebuild. I think they've done that quite well so far. Obviously, I think we still do need probably, you know, four signings, I think, really to bolster out the squad, get some depth in. But yeah, I think if you were to get what I'd be happy with this season, I think anywhere between 12th and 8th, I don't think you'd be able to grumble at. You know, it'd show a bit of stability. It's our first normal season, really. You know, for anything for, you know, 5-6 years, really. You know, we've been under an embargo since 2019, pretty much, not being able to sign any players for a transfer fee. So yeah, you know, I think some fans might sound a bit negative not wanting to go for the playoffs, but if you give me anywhere between 12th and 8th, I'd say it's a pretty good season. If we can fight for the playoffs, even better. But yeah, I think anywhere between 12th or 8th, I'd be pretty happy. Question 3. Yeah, you know, I've mentioned that I think, you know, we've had quite a good transfer window so far, all things considered. You know, brought in some really good players at League One level. Powdy O'Connor, obviously the other half of the Lincoln City defence. You obviously got Rogan, I think it was. We got Powdy O'Connor on a free. Of course, both of them were very reliable last season. And what happens to Powdy O'Connor 2 days before the season this year? Gets injured and is out for, I think, another 2 to 3 weeks. So isn't going to be playing at the weekend, which is a big shame. A big shame, really. But yeah, good signing on that front. Finn Burns, really good signing. Kamari Doyle, brilliant replacement for Harvey Nibbs, I think, and you know, was brilliant for Crawley and Exeter last season. But I think the pick of the lot for me so far has been Paddy Lane. Really exciting winger. Got 12 goals for Portsmouth in their title-winning season. I think it was 6 or 7 assists as well. Just a really reliable player at this level. The fact we've been able to get him on a 3-year deal, and actually the first player we've paid a transfer fee since we got Ovia Jaria back in 2020, which was agreed the season before. Yeah, exciting player, Paddy, and he's a bit of a wind-up merchant as well. He had to apologise for winding up the Reading fans, I think, in his first interview with us when we went to Portsmouth in their title-winning season. He kind of shushed the away fans. I think told the fans rather extravagantly to shut the hell up. I think we'll say multiple times while shushing us. So yeah, it's a bit of a wind-up merchant, but that's the kind of player you want on your team. Yeah, really excited to see him play. Only played 20 minutes last week because he'd only joined the day before. I think played twice that week for Portsmouth in pre-season. So yeah, expecting him to start the weekend, and really excited to see what he can bring us this season. Question 4. Yeah, you know, I think Bindon and Nibs going to be massive losses. You know, I don't think you can understate that. You know, and Gay as well in that bracket. Bindon and Gay, brilliant partnership. And Gay very, very quick. Got us out of lots of holes last season. Brilliant at slide tackling. Yeah, we lost him on a free to QPR in the summer. Very much, I think, got a deserved move to try out at a higher level. Be interested to see how he goes in the Championship. And Tyler Bindon obviously getting his move to it was Nottingham Forest in January last season. Obviously, we got him back on loan, but I think it's testament that he's got a loan move to Sheffield United this season. everyone, I think, will always say that their players are the best in the league, but I certainly think Tyler Bindon was one of the best centre-backs in the league last year. His quality, his footballing brain, just knowing where to be, such an underrated, I think, quality for a centre-back. He didn't really need pace to get him out of holes a lot of the time, unlike Mbenge. And Mbenge was, caught out position a few times and used his pace to get back. Bindon was just always reliable. He knew where he needed to be. Footballing brain was brilliant, and was brilliant at playing the ball out from the back. I think we've replaced them kind of as well as we could by bringing in Burns and O'Connor. We've replaced very youthful talent, Bindon being 19 and Benge 23, I think, last season, with Finn Burns, who's 22, 23, and Paddy O'Connor, who's 28. We've replaced the youth with experience. Hopefully they can fill that gap, but obviously O'Connor won't be playing for a few weeks yet. Nibs only recently lost him, but I think we've replaced him very, very well with Kamari Doyle. Got I think it was 10, 11 goals in all competitions from midfield for Exeter and Crawley last season. Nibs 16 goals, 4 I think were penalties, 5 penalties. But even for a midfielder to be hitting 16 goals is a brilliant return for them. So we'll see how we'll get on without them. I guess had we've kept them, what they're going to bring. You don't know what new players are going to bring. It's they will be a miss. I just hope the players we've got to fill that gap, I'm hoping we'll be able to stand up to the test. Question 5. Yeah, Purple Turtle's a good shout. I think after the game, if any Huddersfield fans are down for the weekend, Purple Turtle's always a good shout for the evening. A bit of a rubbish bar, but it's our rubbish bar, I think, is the way that I think most people would describe it. But I mean, if you want somewhere to get some good drink, good food in the afternoon, no better place than Blue Collar Corner, just around the corner from Purple Turtle. Street food place. They've got a bar there, so you can have some really good beers, good ciders, good cocktails, and some fantastic street food. Got probably one of the best street food chicken places you can go to in Gertwings. Brilliant burger place. I can't recommend that place enough. So if you're waiting for a train, or you want some food after the game, definitely get yourself to Blue Collar Corner. Always open to home and away fans. So yes, you can get yourself some good grub and a drink there. Question 6. Tell us something about Reading Football Club and any other fan wouldn't know. I've still not been able to think of anything better than this. We won the Simon Cup back in the late 80s. Maybe not the younger fans will remember, but I'm sure some of the older listeners will remember the Simon Cup. I think it was 1989. We won that. Our only good day at Wembley. We won't talk about the other trips to Wembley that we've had, especially in the playoffs, especially against a certain team that kind of stopped us from getting to the Premier League, and probably one of the worst playoff finals in history. But yeah, our one good day at Wembley, that Simon Cup win in the late 80s. Michael Gilks and the like. It was a good day, I think, for those fans that went there. But me and my tender years, I didn't come around till a few years after that. So still never seen us win at Wembley. But that was our famous day there. Question 7. I think it's going to be a tough game. Guys coming off a really good first game of the season against Leyton Orient, top of the table against second bottom. You could tout it top of the table against bottom clash. But we had a really good home record last year. It was probably the one really good element of Reading last year. He only lost, I think it was 4 games at home across the season. Always a tough place to go, seemingly, of late, the SEL. Got a really good home record over the years. So hopefully we can put up a good fight. I think it's going to be a bit of a show pre-game, the atmosphere. First proper game under new ownership. But I think if you'd give me a draw, I'd be happy. I think I'm going to stick with the 2-2 draw, even though we've not scored yet in front of fans this season or pre-season even. Might be a bit ambitious going for us to score 2 goals, but hopefully seeing the likes of Paddy Lane get his first start, Kamari Doyle, hopefully O'Mahony, I think it's called, our striker, can get off the mark. I think it's going to be a tight game though, and whenever you're facing a team with Alfie May, it's always going to be tough to keep them out. Going to be a good test for our back line. But I'm going to go with a close 2-2 draw. Hopefully, it's not a last minute equaliser though for you guys.
Okay, Killer. So a big thanks to Matt there for giving us more than what we bargained for there. A good 12 minutes worth of content, which was very nice of him to do so. So Huddersfield Town are heading down to Reading this weekend, and you know what time it is, my good man. It is time for me and you to get really geeky and take it to the tactics board. Bit of a delayed tactics board pressing of a button there. Right, mate. So Reading, I've got in the Huddersfield. I usually use these blue circles. So if you watch it on YouTube, you will see a tactics board in front of you. If you're listening, I will do my best to explain what we are talking about, which is not always easy, is it, Killer? Because we do talk a lot of waffle. So first of all, I think because it's been 11 months since we last played Reading at the Select Car Leasing Stadium. It's always the Medeski, isn't it? It's always going to be the Medeski. So like Huddersfield's always the McAlpine. I think Reading's always the Medeski, isn't it? There's been plenty of change there. Just talk us through the change that Reading have gone through in both players, personnel, and the ownership.
Well, the heart of the club is totally different. Obviously, the ownership with Dai Yong has ended, and now they've got a new. I don't actually know. Is it Rob Courage? How do you even know how to pronounce it? Rob Courage.
I always say Quahog. Like where Peter Griffin lives. It sounds like Quahog, but he's an American financial kind of guy, isn't he? But he's not a billionaire, but he was the owner of Wickham, wasn't he, before he sold it on to their current owners. So I think he's a nice and steady owner, isn't he? Which is what they need.
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, any owner, bar probably your two lads at Morecambe, would have been an upgrade for Reading fans, and it's brought them into this season with such a, I won't say party atmosphere, but it's not so much about just winning. I think it's the relief of being out of that and being able to rebuild. So for Reading, whilst obviously nobody ever wants to waste a season, for them the bigger picture is they're still here and now they can start cracking on after so many transfer windows where they couldn't do much business. And that's off the field such a huge change. The problem Reading have, less so than Orient last week, but they have changed the middle of their park also. In the prior to this last week, we had them down. Well, I did. Don't know if you did as well, but they had the best midfielder in the division with a trio of Charlie Savage, as you like to refer to him as, Lewis Wing, who is probably for me the best centre midfielder in this division this year, or the potential to be, and then Harvey Nibbs, who scored 16 goals last year. Unfortunately, he's moved on in the last few days. Didn't play last week at Lincoln. Nibbs has been nabbed. He's gone. I think they've got a lad called Elliot coming in to play a little bit there. But honestly, you can't replace a midfielder like Nibbs too easily without a lot of luck. So that's such a change in the centre of the midfield. But they also obviously lost Sam Smith last January. We thought he was coming as an agent. It turns out it wasn't the case, and he wasn't at Cedar Court Hotel or wherever he was, DeSandro's, wherever he was supposed to be, and he found himself away from us. So they've lost a striker. They haven't replaced him just yet. Ibachiman's kind of supposedly doing the job and not too well, and they've brought in O'Mahony. Is it? I can't remember how you pronounce
it's
that
like
either.
Double Irish name, that isn't it? It's gone double Irish on that one. So instead of Mahoney, it's O'Mahony.
O'Mahony, and
O'Mahony,
he's not played too much at first team level, so he's a bit of an unknown there. So they're still lacking that bona fide 9 to score goals that they didn't replace after Smith left in January. But then more worrying for them is they've lost 2 centre backs who were really, really good. Matt, you have a bit of a thing for Tyler Bindon, didn't you? The Kiwi young lad who was fantastic. He's left, and Bengi's gone as well. He's gone somewhere. Is it Rio Ave in Portugal? I think the other centre back. I can't remember where exactly they've gone, but thhave lost the 2 centre backs, one of the main midfielders and the striker, and they've not replaced the heart of that team. So they are a team in transition. They might not have lost the numbers that Orient have in 9 starters, 10 starters, but the ones they have lost were the guys that drove them into a very, very solid defence last year and a fortress at the Majeski Stadium. I'm with you on that one, Matt. And they've lost a striker that can't score goals. And that's kind of what everybody saw at Lincoln last week. The game was quite an entertaining one to watch, and Reading were better than what the scoreline suggests. Much better than what the scoreline suggests. Lewis Wing at the post twice. to me, they had a goal disallowed that was very much onside. I actually don't know how the linesman's got that wrong at 1-0, and it changes the game, doesn't it, if you get back to 1-1 there. There's also a penalty shout after, it wasn't Louis Wing, but somebody else got pushed over in the box, which was a clear penalty for me, and that wasn't given either. It was one of those games where they've gone to Sincilbank and it just didn't work out for them because they didn't get the decisions all those moments. But a 2-0 defeat at Lincoln doesn't portray what actually happened in that game. So whilst they've gone through changes, again, like Leyton Orient have that we faced last week, this Reading team is much better than I think anyone else realises. And if you watch the game, you'd see what I mean. They're not as bad as the 2-0 defeat suggests.
Okay, so we've got Reading up on the tactics board here. So how we think they will line up. So is it in that tried and trusted 4-3-3 that they played last year? So I've had a message from my mate Matty Dirks about 5 times asking for credit to say that Reading play with an exceedingly high line. So he's wanted me to point that out several times. So I'll give him a name check as well. And he's on the pre-season video as well in his car making his predictions, if you want to know who he is. So Reading will play the high line, thanks to Mr. Dirks. In goal, we've got Cameron Pope, aka Joel Pereira, haven't we? Very similar looking. The back four, so this is where, like you've mentioned, it's all changed. So right back was Michael Craig last season, so he's left. He's been snafu'd elsewhere as well. This is what I like about Reading. Reading have a great close to London, so it's easy to nab from that area. But the other clubs in Reading's area, sort of Berkshire, Oxford, Wickham, etc., don't have amazing academies. So Reading being Cat 1, or I think they previously were Cat 1, hoover up a lot of good players. So across this back four for Reading, they've got Kelvin Abrafa, 21-year-old Reading Academy player. Next to him is Michael Stickland, every dog's dream, another Reading Academy player. Paddy O'Connor will probably play for him if he's fit, but we don't know how his calf injury is. We haven't heard the Reading press conference yet, or I'll be honest, Killer, I don't really intend to listen to the press conference from Reading. Next to him is Finn Burns on loan from Man City. He scored an own goal. Quite unfortunate, wasn't he, at the weekend, but he's a good little player. And then left back, they've got Jeriel Dorset, another Reading Academy player as well. So they've got 3, at the minute, they've got 3 of the 4 in the back line are all Academy players and all 21 years old. So they've all come through together. So they'll have a little bit of an understanding there. And then they'll either be marshalled with Finn Burns or Paddy O'Connor in there. And then the midfield, which is what you like. Lewis Wing sits in the middle, doesn't he? And he tries to dictate everything from the middle of the park. And then they have Charlie Savage just to the left of him, who's a good player. Not quite his dad's level, is he? And he's not quite as much of a prick as his dad was. He plays to the left. And then on the right is where Harvey Nibbs play, but they've just lost Harvey Nibbs. So Ben Elliott, the one who scored the winner against us last season, has played there, but they have just signed Kamari Doyle on loan from Brighton, who can possibly come in there. And they've signed somebody called Daniel. Where is it now? Where is he? There he is. Daniel Kirawa, who they've brought in from Munster as well, who's an attacking midfielder. So potentially either of those two could step in for Ben Elliott. But I can see what Reading have done. They've tried to go for that consistency and players that know each other. So that's why Ben Elliott started, but he came off at the weekend. And then up front is where they've kind of had the early problems, isn't it? So they've got Kamara on the right, another Reading player. Reading Academy player who plays on the right. Kelvin Abachaman on the left, another Academy player. And then through the middle is O'Mahony, the guy on loan from Brighton. But they've also signed Paddy Lane as well. Paddy Lane's done quite well at this level before, so he may find himself being introduced into that starting lineup. He came on at the weekend, and we use FOTMob, don't we, for the stats, which is quite good. And he didn't appear to do quite well on FOTMob's ratings, but they don't always marry what you see with your eyes, do they? It's based heavily on stats rather than take-ons and things like that, and progress up the pitch. So he's a dangerous player. So we think that's how Reading will line up in that 4-3-3, and like we say, a high line. And we think, Killer, if they do go with that high line, obviously it's the start of the season, so they've only had one game, so we don't have a good idea just yet of how exactly everyone's going to play, including Huddersfield Town. But if we suppose that Reading are going to play this high line, then I think that plays into our hands quite well.
Absolutely.
Especially when you look at some of the combinations that we play down the flanks, especially with Gooch, and then down the left potentially with either Miller or Ruskin, then that could allow Huddersfield to get in behind on quite a number of occasions. So if we look at Townside, so if you're looking on YouTube, I've had to go black and white. It's like a Preston kit because they don't have the green. We think Huddersfield are playing the green, don't we, this weekend? Because that's the only kit that doesn't really clash. Owen Goodman will play in goal, we believe. That I don't think there's any reason for change. Right back will be the Gooch, the Perineum, and then Jack Watmo and Joe Lowe will continue, I believe, at centre backs. It's the left back, which is the tricky one, isn't it? So I did have a little listen to Lee Grant's press conference today, and he did say Sean Rowan has trained, and he'll be training tomorrow. So, but then he did say that we have to take a longer term view on a lot of players, and we can't rush them. So when I've made a spreadsheet this year because Town's injuries were mental last year, so I've made a little spreadsheet. I'm turning it into like a mini Stephen Chicken, maybe the beef to the chicken, and essentially a pork because my dad was a pig farmer. So, so basically, we had 6 players missing last week who we think were injured, and then we also had a suspension or weren't ready. So we had Chapman, we know is injured, Murray Wallace, Josh Feeney was suspended, McGuane, Healy, and Evans. So that's 7 that we were missing. Add to that, Sean Rowan and Marcus Harness went off injured. So that's already we're starting to sort of tot up a little bit. But listening to Lee Grant's press conference, he did say Rowan's okay. So that's a positive. And he did say with the likes of Murray Wallace, McGuane, that he doesn't really want to rush them and that they're on their own path, if you like. So I think they'll be there or thereabouts pretty soon, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe against Leicester rather than in the league. So that he did mention Castledine as well, that he's had a full week's training. So I was led to believe that he was injured last week, but it sounds like he'd only been in the building 24 hours, like Lee Grant says, and then he hadn't trained enough, so they didn't want to include him. So he's trained all week this week, so I imagine he might be on the bench this week. Then we've got Healy, obviously, is injured, and Evans is going to be out for a couple of months as well. So the left back, do you think we'll go Sean Rowan? I think he might go Sean Rowan because Murray Wallace isn't ready. I think he possibly might go with Rowan if he's pretty much okay. Don't you, Killer, at that left back?
Yeah, I think so. And I think with Rowan, Matt, with Rowan's history, if he's slightly fit, if he's okay to play, he's going to play. There's no way last season, with him playing every minute of every game, he didn't play through injuries because you get knocks, you get bruises, and he's obviously the guy that cracks on, gets on through it. And Matt, to be totally honest, if you're looking at the other options we have at left back in either Miller and Ruskin and the fighting for places with Wallace coming back as well, if I'm Sean Rowan, I'm wanting to play because I'm worried about not necessarily getting my place back in a couple of weeks if I'm fit then, because to me, this Reading team, we'll get on to later on in predictions and stuff, are there for a beating with decent pace over the top with, such as Dirks has said, they do play an incredibly high line. And if they do, that'll really help us out. Because of that, if I'm Sean Rowan, I'm thinking, I've got to play. There's no way I can't play this one, because if we do win well, it might be another couple of weeks until I get a chance to break back into this team. So no, if he can make himself available, I'm sure he will. And I think he was, even in his 10 minutes that he played at the weekend, I think he stopped the goal from Connolly early doors, where he managed to nearly block the first effort that came off the post, and then second effort he did just enough for him to put it over the bar, and played a part in the goal for Joe Lowe as well with the block and Alfie May. So I think if he's available, he should be playing.
I mean, I think there's an outlier there. I think Radinho Balca could potentially fulfill that role as well, because it is basically he did play left-sided centre back at Almere, and Groningen. I think it was Groningen he came from, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he did play that left-sided role, and he played a wide centre back role there, which technically is what it is. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they flirted with that idea of Balca as that sort of left back come centre back, especially with the pace that he's got, the recovery pace. So we think that'll be the back four. The two in midfield, Ledson and Kane. I don't think that's going to change much. Kasumu's the one there that could potentially come in at some point. He's the fittest, isn't he, of the bunch? McGuane, we don't think he'll be ready just yet. And then in midfield, Ben Wiles will continue, we think, at 10. And then Millen potentially on the left. He was the one who started, wasn't he? But Ruskin did score the goal. So there's a real toss up between the two there, isn't there? But Miller was the one who had the shirt and then probably didn't do anything wrong, to be honest. He got moved to left back, but I imagine Miller will start again. And then Alfie May potentially up front, but it's the right hand side, isn't it? Which is the one which causes the most intrigue. If Marcus Harness is injured, who do you pick? Because as I highlighted in the Building Northern Football series that we've done with the written articles, there is no natural backup for Marcus Harness in this squad, and that's a worry in some ways. Could Gooch play there, do you think? And then maybe Sorensen at right back, but you don't really want Sorensen, do you, in that defensive situation? Although it looked all right when he came off the bench. What would you do there? Would you go Gooch or would you go? Would you tickle the Gooch or would you go Sorensen? Do you think, or Dion Charles maybe?
I think there's another couple. I think Taylor's an option out there, Matt. To be honest,
Or would you put May there and Taylor up front?
Well, that's a second option, but I think trying to get those two on the field at the same time will be something we try at some point in the season. I'm still not entirely convinced it is going to work, but if Harness is out, which will be a massive mismatch, because I thought he was fantastic the other day, in that he didn't do too much, but what he does well is he lifts the tempo. So whenever he got the ball on the break, he knew around him straight away where players were, and he knew if we had Orient on the back foot, if players were out of position, he knew how to capitalise to the maximum where Orient were weak. And we honestly, players like that at League One don't exist. That's where he is. He is, but up the feet, up top, like and out wide, which is so rare. He reads the game as well as anybody else in that squad, and it's not even close. He's elite at this level at doing that, and him not being available will be a big miss. So again, a bit like Rowan at left back, if he is slightly available, I'd be pushing to play him because I do think he's that important, and I really feel like he unlocked Ben Wiles, all the chances we kind of got at the weekend through Wiles. A lot of it, Harness had such a big play in it. And it's quite surprising if you look back at Harness's stats, Matt, over the last few seasons, he doesn't have that many assists and that many goals. And I wondered why. And I wondered why people can call him creative. I wondered why Derby fans liked him so much in the false 9 role last year. Or maybe 10, like whatever you want to call that kind of role. But it's because he creates the chances that creates the assist. He starts moves. He's not just the one that gets the last touch or the second to last touch. And he's going to be a really difficult person to replace. But I also think Hasseldyne might be an option here, Matt, in that he is a 10, but he's also played as an attacking midfield on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. And when he has, his goals to games ratio is 1 in 3. So he's another option. But no one's going to give us, as you say, Matt, what Harness gives us, because nobody else in the team is able to do that role as well as he does, in that he plays as a winger, but when he needs to come inside, he knows when to do it naturally. Nobody else can fulfill that. So it's up to Lee Grant to find a different way of playing, I think, down that right-hand side. And the names that could do it, like you say, with Gooch and Sorensen, there's quite a few different options there, but none of them will be Marcus Harness.
No. So we think that's how Town will land. So who are we going with on that right-hand side? I think they might push Gooch up, you know.
Yeah.
I think I might push Gooch up.
Well, Sorensen came on and did well. Sorensen came on and did well, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he which, to be fair, none of us expected at any point this season, never mind in the first game. So I think he's kind of earned that opportunity, unless you try Miller or Ruskin on the opposite side, which is obscure and we've not seen it before. But if you're trying to get them both in the lineup, that's one way you could do it as well.
He kind of did it for 10 minutes. Ruskin came over to the right for about 10 minutes in the first half, didn't he, last week? And it didn't quite work. But he does do the pressing side of things really well, doesn't he? So it's potentially 2 left backs in the attacking 3. That'd be something, wouldn't it? Right, so we've come off the tactics board now, and we go to the predictions. Just before we go on, just remember to sign up for the Patreon as well, because when we get to the big 1,000, we'll have a bit of a celebration, and we'll start handing out some freebies, and we'll do a competition and bits and pieces. But we want to get to a landmark first to celebrate. So even if you watch us on YouTube, just sign up to the Patreon, because you'll get all the latest news, and it's not spam either. You don't get a lot. Just sign up, and you'll get notifications when there's a signed seal delivered, which there's going to be a young Leo Castledine one quite shortly as well. So you'll get all the good stuff into your inbox, or the app. If you've got the app, you'll get the notification. Killer, predictions. You go first.
I'll go 2-0 Town in this one, Matt. I think Reading are there to be beaten. And if they do play that Highline, because they did play it against Lincoln, and it were awful. Honestly, they played such good football for most of it, but the line was so high, just like we had at the end of last year. it was such a weakness. It don't matter how good the rest of the football is because you give too many easy chances away, and Reading did that against Lincoln. And I don't think second game in, you change your entire system. So I'm not expecting No Hunt to do that. I think he'll stick with it again to try and make it work. I feel that's what happens for the first 3-4 games of the season until you've taken that hit on your pride in changing what you wanted to go with. You can't do that after one game. You just can't. So they will play similarly. If Paddy O'Connor comes in, Matt, he might be a little bit better in defence, but I think we're a little bit carnage going forward in that we're going to be tough to defend against. Organised chaos. There's guys everywhere. I was talking about it before on the social podcasting. I think the way Town play going forward is with freedom. I think they're not tasked with when they lose the ball to quickly get back into a very specific position. And because of that, when we are attacking now, we attack with freedom. That's why Ben Wiles is running into the corners from deep and Alfie May is pressing really cleverly everywhere across the front of the pitch. Everything felt like they had an element of freedom going forward, and that's going to be a nightmare for teams to defend against. Maybe in 3 or 4 or 5 games' time, they've got enough tape on Town to be able to work out a game plan to counter out just yet. But Orient was so poor last week, or Town was so good that I don't think that point's arrived just yet. So I'm going to go 2-0 Town, Matt, and a comfortable 2-0 again with Alfie May scoring, because I don't think you're going to get me this year not predicting Alfie May to score if he's starting. And Herbie Kane. I feel Herbie Kane might get one.
The old Herbert. My prediction's slightly different. I'm going for a Town win, but I'm going 3-2. I just think there's goals in the Huddersfield squad, but I saw some weaknesses as well. Into when we turn the ball over high up, we are very vulnerable to a team that go high and will press high, and will press the defense high. So I'm going 3-2, and I think Town will get caught, and I think we'll see vulnerabilities with us. And I think we've got a lot of goals in us as well, just by the sheer weight of numbers. And I think it's going to be an exciting, insane game, which will end 0-0 now I've said that. But I'm going to go for goals from Alfie May, the Gooch, and Joe Taylor as a sub. So those are my 3. And that's it. That's what we've got time for this week. We're trying to keep these nice and short, aren't we? But Killer waffled on for way too long there. So thanks for listening. Sign up to the Patreon and check out our Castledine Signed Seal Delivered, which should be in your inbox pretty soon.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, and every goal shall be a memory. So Town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So Town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.